What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Sports Podcast with D. Haynes and Doc, baby. We back here live again for Week 11 of the NFL Fantasy Football, guys. We will give our sleepers, our starts, our sit-ems, as well as our thoughts on Thursday night's game, and we have a special injury report for you featuring Doc himself.
As always.
So let's just jump right into it. We'll go real quick to Thursday night's games against the Bengals and Ravens. Doc, what are your thoughts on the game Thursday?
I'm sad. I'm sad. Joe Burrow injury, obviously everyone saw it. I think he was injured before the game.
Yeah.
If you saw him, some of the practice videos they put out, some of the videos from last game, he is kind of holding his wrist, and he was in a brace. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yep.
He walked out of something he had a brace on before the game, so he had a sprained ligament in his wrist, and so he will be out. So
Rest of the
it's really
year.
sad because they started to get the roll just like they do every single year. They did lose the game, but I think a lot of that was to the fact that his wrist was not he was not fully healthy, and he hasn't been. If he was, I think they'd roll right into the playoffs and go pretty far. But I'm interested moving forward because Ja'Marr Chase, we were just talking about this. Fantasy value has been through the roof, but now looks a little bleak. But we don't know if the backup, what's his name? I'm not even sure of his name.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you
But
as well.
it's possible that he could look to Ja'Marr Chase only because Ja'Marr Chase being heads and shoulders above the other receivers, even T. Higgins, honestly. He could look to him more. I think T. Higgins is a great wide receiver, and I think he'd be a wide receiver one on any other team.
Correct. I'd agree with that.
Just want to say that.
As long as he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But no, and then Gus Edwards had another phenomenal game with 21 fantasy points. And once again, he was riding my bench for the third straight week in a row, unfortunately. But did have Mixon in there, so that was good. He got 21 points as well. Mixon's on a tear, and I think right now, if you don't have Mixon on your team, or if someone wants to get rid of him, try to pick him up for someone because I feel like they're going to be running the ball a lot more now. And now is the perfect time to pick him up. But yeah, we can go ahead and get going on some sleepers here on who we think are the sleepers of the week, and we'll go from there. Newport, who is your first sleeper of the week?
Yeah, I start off with Marquise Brown. So last week was the first week we saw Kyler back. Last week was the first week we saw James Conner back. There were some growing pains, but everything looked like it was better than obviously it had been. I think it'll just keep getting better. Arizona's offense is scary, and people don't realize that. It can be very good. And Marquise Brown, especially, with how fast he is and explosive in his downfield game, his deep threat is just crazy. I mean, he could go off for 60 yards at any one play. So he did only see 4 targets last week, only had 3.8 fantasy points, but that will not be consistent. I'd put money on it that he will be, like, if the line was set at 3.8 fantasy points, 100% I'm taking the over on that. He will have more than 4 targets this game, especially with a little bit harder of a matchup. I think it's a fantasy lock to have Marquise Brown in.
For sure, and I mean they're going against the Texans this week, so it's not like it's I'm not saying their defense is terrible. Their secondary is actually all right, but it's a matchup that the Cardinals could take advantage of if they wanted to, especially with a playmaker in the backfield with Murray. So yeah, Brown would definitely be a good lock in, I think, too, as well this week. Just to be on the lookout, because if he has a good game this week, I'd start him next week.
Yeah.
All right, so my first sleeper is Terry McLaurin, Indianapolis native, baby.
On your fantasy team.
Yeah, on my fantasy team. Thanks to you for that trade, baby. No, but yeah, Terry, I think, is going to have a phenomenal week this week going against a terrible Giants defense right now. They're struggling. They're on the struggle bus, and McLaurin is the number one wideout for the Commanders, and I just think it's just going to keep going up from here. I mean, the dude's scary Terry for a reason. So watch out for him on a sleeper this week. I think he's projected 14 points, so I feel like he will get more than that this week. I think this is his week to go off.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Sam Howell throwing the most yards in the NFL,
Correct.
Sam Howell's
Yep.
number one.
Yep.
So a lot of it's a huge passing team, huge passing team. So to have the best wide receiver on the best passing team, it's not bad.
Not bad at
It's not
all.
bad for a sleeper. So moves into my second, which surprisingly, I'm going to throw it in here. I'm just going for it,
Do
going
it.
all in,
Let's hear it.
going all in here. What is the worst defense in the NFL? Ranked number 32, the Redskins. I'm not saying Commanders. What is this?
Oh,
Redskins.
throwback.
Washington Redskins. They're playing the Giants, who is one of the worst teams we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years,
Who are they
outside of
playing?
Saquon Barkley. It's god. That team is god awful,
Exactly.
and Saquon can't even do anything. When they played the Cowboys, I felt bad because they had the ball on like the 2 yard line the first drive, and they gave it to Saquon. And if you watch the replay, like all 5 of the O line just fell, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just him. They had like it was a replay, and they just had Saquon holding the ball, staring at 6 defenders that are bigger than him. It's impossible. It's impossible. Like the Giants are horrible. Even that the Commanders are in rank 32 for defenses.
Yeah.
Even getting -5 points last week. I think they're a fantasy sleeper this week because they play the Giants.
No one likes those Giants. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, you can't really go wrong when you're playing against one of the worst offensive teams in the league. All right, so my next sleeper, Kyler Murray. We just talked about him a little bit. We'll talk about him a little bit more here now. 63% he is rostered in fantasy leagues. I think that's a little low. Now I know that he was injured for a while. He's finally back for his second game. But if you're in big leagues, you need to stash this man. I'm serious because he has a lot of potential to go off. I mean, he is the fantasy god, is what I like to call him. So I mean, he scores a lot of points, and scoring almost 18 points his first game back last week is very, very well, very, very well looked into because it was against a good Falcons defense too. So look out for him. I know he's going against the Texans this week. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, 18 points he's projected right now. I say around there or maybe just a little higher he'll get with that, especially with his targeting McBride lately. I mean, that right there is just a great connection to have. And then plus you have Marquise Brown, like we talked about, as well to target. I mean, I think he's going to have a fun field day today. But like I said, we'll see as it goes on, as the year progresses with him. But I think right now, especially in big leagues, stash this man away, or even possibly start him because this man will put up numbers. He really will.
I think you're starting them, aren't you?
I am not. I thought about it, but I'm gonna keep Mahomes there.
Okay. All right. That moves into my third. And what is a fantasy podcast without a little bit of Cowboys content?
Yes.
I put Rico Dowdle here. So for a fantasy sleeper, I think this is some guy at this point in the season. Excuse me. That
Bless
you need to pick up and put on your bench at least minimum just to see what happens here moving out. So last week he had 13.9 fantasy points in PPR, got a touchdown, got in the end zone, got 12 attempts on the ground for 79 yards. Tony Pollard has looked awful. We saw a stat the other day that Achane actually has more fantasy points through 3 games than Tony Pollard does the entire year. Tony Pollard is just, I don't know what the problem is really. When he gets the ball, it doesn't look like he runs very hard. I think he tried to, it's like that college NFL effect back in early 2000s when you watched like the Colts play. Like they never ran hard. It was weird because they got in the NFL, they got the bag, and then they never ran hard. I feel like that's what Pollard got after Elliott left. He's just not running hard. But luckily, I think we have Rico Dowdle, who's trying to prove that he's the running back that he is. And you also have the coach's son. What's his name?
Vaughn. Deuce.
Deuce Vaughn. They're both picking up slack that Tony Pollard's kind of leaving behind here. So I like the Cowboys' offense more when they start running a committee, but in the backfield. That is what the Cowboys need to do because they get tired quick.
Mm-hmm.
So Rico Dowdle, stash him if he gets the starting spot at some point because Tony Pollard isn't doing it. I think it's going to be big fantasy points.
Absolutely. And he ran hard last week. I mean, I would definitely think that coaches saw that, and I think Pollard saw it, and he needs to get a fire underneath his butt, or else it's something's going to change. All right, yeah. So my next waiver pick, or sorry, not waiver pick, the sleeper, would be Courtland Sutton for the Denver Broncos. This man has more touchdowns already this year than he did last year. First off, we'll go with that. Now, I know in big leagues, I'd say he's probably wide receiver 2 flex option this week. But this man right now is on a tear. Let me try to pull up his stats here for you guys so you guys can take a look here. As he's not okay, there it goes. Yeah, so right now he's projected 12.4 points coming in this week against a Vikings defense that's kind of struggling right now. Now they are also on a tear, but their secondary has not been the best as of late, and Sutton has actually found pay dirt in 7 of the Broncos' 9 games, so he's scoring a lot, which gives a lot of fantasy value to him. So he's not one that normally is determined to score a touchdown for points values because he's already normally about going to score a touchdown anyways every game. He's the number 1 wide receiver in the Broncos offense, and he's going to find a lot of value this week against a struggling secondary for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, I completely agree. That actually moves us perfectly into my must starts.
Yep.
So this next segment is our 3 must starts from each people. Moves perfectly in because I have Jerry Jeudy as a must start this week.
Yeah.
So if you've watched their games recently, it does look like Jerry Jeudy's become a favorite for Wilson. He's had some decent fantasy outputs, 12, 13 points. Last week was a little bit lower just because he was targeted a little bit less against a Buffalo defense. Buffalo was all over him, and pass interference all the time on him. So even on the last play, which is ridiculous, if you watch the game, it's just stupid. But like you said, going up against Minnesota, who has that little bit of weakness with some of the secondary, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a favorite with Wilson. I think Wilson needs to keep throwing the ball. I think he needs to keep that going. They need more slant routes across the middle. They just need to open things up more, create more of like an open offense, because that's how Russell Wilson plays. I feel like he feels a little restricted in this current offense. So I think this week Jerry Jeudy is going to put up at least 10 points. So if you are looking for around there for your flex, I think that's a lock.
Yes. No, I'd agree with that. I mean, along with the Sutton thing, Sutton and Jeudy right now are just it's a good pair to look at right now, especially how they're rolling these last couple games. I mean, think about it. This Broncos team used to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they go back-to-back weeks beating the Chiefs, beating the Bills. I mean, and then you got the Vikings, which are another hot team coming in. I mean, I think they won what? They won what? 5 straight, I think.
Yeah, I like the Vikings. Yeah. I
mean,
they're doing good things.
Yeah, correct. All right, for my start, it's kind of funny because now you talked about Dowdle. Now I'm going to talk about Pollard. I think you should start him this week. I feel like if he is going to be doing anything remotely close to what he did last year, it will start today against a very, 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 very poor running defense of the Panthers. I say very poor because they are ranked dead last in the run. Okay, so it's Pollard's time to shine. If he doesn't shine this week, I don't know what his future is going to look like if he don't shine this week. I think it's a game that he has to do good, or else he might. What do you think he might pull him? I don't know, man. Dowdle's been getting a lot of carries. I know they were up quite a bit last week, which allowed him to do that. But at the same time, Pollard is not giving. I mean, actually, he only has one touchdown this week or this year. One in that high-powered offense. So I think it's a must start for him this week, just due to the fact that he has to have a great game. I think he's going to show up finally, and I mean, it's future's in his hands today, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, and Tony Pollard had one game with a pair of touchdowns, and that was the first game.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But their first game was a huge game against the Giants. It was just a huge scoring game. And,
Correct.
And everyone got the ball. I think the fourth string towel collector got a touchdown, so I don't think that says much. But no, I kind of agree with you. I think this is kind of Pollard's must show week.
Yep.
He's got to show up, or else I think something's got to be said or some decisions got to be made. So that moves into my second start, and that's Mr. Geno Smith. Little disappointed him this year compared to what happened last year. He got the bag and kind of fell off. He had a great year last year after being in the league for the last 97 years. So I'm glad he did well last year. Fantasy value this year's looked abysmal. He's had a couple games in the teens, 2 in the 20s, but he's had a couple games where he's gotten like 3 fantasy points, and that was against Baltimore, a very tough Baltimore defense. But with that being said, just tough in general. But this week, I think this is the week for him. They play the Rams. The Rams defense is
Dookie.
I mean, I think your daughter out there at middle linebacker would probably stop him at the 2. So I mean, I don't know. The Rams are bad. Their defense is horrible. So Geno Smith, I think, is going to put in some good passing yards. Last week he threw for 369 and actually got 24 fantasy points, which looked good. He had a passer rating of 104, his best of the season, other than against Detroit in week 2. So he's doing well, and I think ride that in right now. Ride that good momentum into a bad Rams defense, and I think you'll see good fantasy value from it.
Yeah, and I'm looking up the Rams position ranked defense right now is 31 out of 32. So,
yep.
Geno, go off, please. All right, for my next stardom, we got Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions. Alrighty, that man right now is tearing it up with Montgomery. Actually, we'll just be honest here. The Lions are tearing it up anywhere.
Love the Lions.
It's great to see, because I was talking with Newport, a while back, earlier in this season. This is the first time we've ever seen the Lions do good in our life. I mean, the last time
Calvin Johnson struggle for years.
Yeah. The last time the Lions have ever won a playoff game was 93, I believe it was. 1993. Weren't even thought of. So
it's painful.
I know. It's actually, for once, good to see the Lions doing well. They play against a Bears team this week. I think they can blow them out of the water if they need to. The Bears defense is already struggling enough, like it always has been, really. So yeah, I think Gibbs will have another great game as well, and I think Montgomery will have another great game as well. I think they'll both just tear it up in the backfield. But Gibbs for sure. If you have him on your fantasy team, start him. I think he's projected around 16 fantasy points this week. So for sure, if you're in a big league and you already have or a smaller league and you already have a decent running back, at least put him on the flex position for you guys. I think he'll give you some great value this week against the Bears.
Yeah, see, I think the Detroit offense is one of those rare offenses where many people can have fantasy value. They have a huge passing game, huge running game, great defense. It's just a good all-around fantasy value for the Detroit Lions.
I agree.
My third one actually already happened because we made this list before the game. However, I'm still going with it. I'm not changing it because I was right before the game. So, Mr. Gus Edwards, dude's a dog.
Oh.
Dude's a dog. He's 6'1", 240 pounds of dog.
Have
Okay,
fun
he looks
tackling that.
huge out there. He just looks huge. He got 21 fantasy points against Cincinnati, ran for 62 yards on only 12 attempts,
Mm-hmm.
had 2 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Like, only touched the ball 14 total times and got 21 fantasy points. He's great. He's great. I actually wish he was on a team out in the middle of Texas, the Dallas Cowboys. Um,
Yes.
so he's great, and I was right about him before this game, and will continue to be right about him because I feel like he's got great fantasy value moving forward in the Baltimore offense, which I still think the Baltimore offense is pretty elite. So
I would agree with that as well. I mean, yeah, Edwards is a scoring machine currently. So
yeah,
I can't remember. I think he has like what 6 or 7 touchdowns the last 4 games or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yep,
Um, but yeah, great pickup or a great start as well. For my last stardom would be Trey McBride, the tight end for the Arizona Cardinals. Last week, he had 100 over 100 yards receiving, and guess what? That's the first time a tight end's had over 100 yards receiving since 1989 for the Cardinals.
insane.
1989. They found them good. They found themselves a good tight end, and I think Murray loves them as well. Um, so I mean, this man is getting targeted quite a bit. He's projected, I think, 12 fantasy points against a Texan defense this week. But I mean, last week, 8 receptions, 131 yards receiving. He didn't have any touchdowns, but when you have 8 receptions for 131 yards, it's all right. And
Yeah,
he was targeted 9 times too. So he only missed one. So I mean, he was 8 of 9 for 131, average 16 yards per catch. So phenomenal. I think it's Murray's #1 target right now. So if you need a tight end, please pick him up. He will do you wonders, I believe. So yeah. Or if you're in a bigger league, stash him if you need to. But this man needs to be in the starting lineups now. He's proven
yeah,
himself.
yeah. I completely agree. I think he's the favorite. Uh, he's the favorite check down option for Kyler.
Yep,
That's it's become apparent, and he's got a ton of fantasy value there. That's
absolutely.
just now starting to blossom. So beautiful moving forward. This moves us into our must sits. These are the bums of the week. Bum number one, and it hurts to even call him a bum because I like him. But that's DeAndre Hopkins. The Titans' offense is bad. Their passing
Mm-hmm.
offense is non-existent. I'm sorry. I was hoping for better with Will Levis. Um, then the only saving grace for DeAndre Hopkins is that he still gets a lot of targets,
Yeah.
which I normally bet on. He gets 11 targets, 9 targets the last couple weeks. He gets good targets, but last week he only took in 3 of 9 receptions. I don't think
Mm.
that's all him. I think a little bit of that is who's throwing him the ball might be a little out of reach. However, it goes on his record. 3 for
Yep.
9 is not good, and the outlook on it is just kind of tough. And honestly, I think they lose games coming up and they pull Derrick Henry. I think they put Tyjae Spears in. We've talked about that
Yep.
at running back. I think they're just going to kind of tank and see what young talent they have and go from there in the draft. And speaking of draft, Caleb Williams' stock is falling quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Oh yeah.
So Drake May at the 1, interesting.
He lost 2 last night
Oh, did they?
to Clemson.
Ooh, God.
Yeah, by like 11, I think.
Okay, moving into your first sit.
All right, Jalen Warren. I like this man. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I mean, the last 2 games, Green Bay and the Titans. Green Bay had like 101 yards rushing. I don't. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year. And Tennessee, let's see, at 88 yards rushing. So yeah, I mean the man's good. I think he should be over Harris for sure. But it's just this week they go against one of the best defenses in the entire league and
Mm-hmm.
at their place, and that's the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's gonna be hard
Yeah.
to run against those front guys. So That's why I have him sitting for this week. Other than that, I'd have him, starting in a flex position in our league, or possibly even an RB2. But as of today's game against the Browns, I'd sit him. I just don't think he will have as much value today. So that defense is too good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to see Jalen Warren do well.
Yeah.
Najee's gotten a couple fantasy points the last couple weeks, and I think they're going to kind of run with that because they always do with Najee Harris. But I think you're spot on there. So my second sit is Jakobi Meyers, and that's because Jakobi Meyers has just been in weird situations lately. He's going up against the Dolphins offense. I think they might put Ramsey on him. I would, but he's been up and down with fantasy, and I just don't think it's worth it, especially if you're even in a deeper league. I don't know if it's worth putting him in the flex. He has some good games. He's gotten a couple games in the 20s. 2 games ago against the Giants. Now, mind you, it's against the Giants. He got 13.5 points. But other than that, he's gotten 3 points against Detroit, 4.1 points against the Jets, which the Jets, again, have a great defense. So it's tough to see when he goes up against good defense as a good matchup. He is not targeted a lot.
No.
So with Aiden O'Connell, I'm not betting on him.
Nope.
So if you have him in your league, you're in a deeper league, try someone else.
Yep. And I will piggyback off of that just because of the fact I have been a huge fan of Jakobi Meyers this year, being on my team.
Yeah, he's got a lot of points.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I actually sat him this week. Just
you
because
listen
of
to
that.
the podcast.
Just because of that fact. I mean, the last meeting against the Jets, I think he was targeted twice out of the entire game. Had his worst fantasy value, I think, of the year. O'Connell is just either looking for 2 guys, I think, Mayer or Adams. And I think with that new coach in that system, Adams is for sure getting the ball a lot more now, just because the coach even said that he would be doing that. So Meyers is, slacking a little bit because of that. So yeah, and like you said, going against the Miami Dolphins, their secondary isn't the best, but I just don't see Meyers getting a lot of input today, as like you said. And unfortunately, I think having the new coach come into that system is going to affect Myers's output throughout the games for the rest of the year. So I would agree with the sit.
Yeah, just to be clear about the Ramsey thing, the Dolphins don't always put Ramsey on the best receiver.
Correct.
So they have him switch mid-game to kind of ruin up the flow. So, not the majority of the game, but a lot of the game, he might be covered by Ramsey. So
yeah. All right, leading into my second sit would be Isaiah Pacheco. Once again, it is another thing that I'm kind of like, why is this guy in my sit list? But at the same time, he's going against the number 1 defense, run defense, and the Eagles. That's just a hard team to go against. I know that he's familiar with them within the Super Bowl, but the Eagles have added a few extra guys this year. And I just feel like if they're going to beat the Eagles, they're going to have to pass the ball. And the Eagles secondary is actually, believe it or not, one of the worst secondaries in the league. And so I feel like these wide receivers this week for Kansas City or tight ends will go off. And Pacheco might have a few dish down passes, but when it comes to the run game, I don't see him getting too much fantasy value. But I will say, if you are in a big league, I would put him possibly at a flex position if you don't have anyone else. Just because he will, I still think, get around his average, what he's projected, about 12.7 this week. I think he'll be under that just a little bit, around 10-ish. But I still think he'll give you enough value at a flex position, possibly. But starting him for an RB1, RB2 situation, I would hold off for that this week.
Yeah, and they're starting to run less and less.
Yeah.
And I think they need to get a playoff spot secured for them. So
absolutely,
they're a good team, but they have a lot of holes in the lineup. So Moving on to my last sit is James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. So if you watched the game, the man can't hold on to a football, and Josh
Mm-hmm.
Allen cannot give him said football. So it is really frustrating. First play of the game, he fumbled, gave the ball away. And the thing I'm looking at here is the coaching staff is on a very short leash with James Cook. So
Mm.
all it takes is one mess up and James Cook is out. They throw him out and he's just standing on the sideline half the game, like, please let me in again. And he got back in, he dribbled to himself like he's like mid court for the Celtics. Doesn't make any sense. Um, he fumbles a lot. He gets you decent fantasy points around the high singles, low teens. So if you are looking around that area for flex, just like you had said with Isaiah Pacheco, throw him in the flex possibly. But if he's one of your starting two running backs, if you're in a 12-man league, I would not put him in the 1-2 RB range right now,
Mm-hmm.
especially not the RB2. I think he's in a flex to sit conversation if you have depth in the running back position, or if you have a wide receiver that can fill that flex better than he can. So,
Yep. Yep. All right. Yep. And then my last one would be Amari Cooper. Once again, a lot of my sits this week are normally stardoms or possibly sleepers in my systems, but this week they're going against some teams that are looking pretty promising against one another one on one. So Amari Cooper, that's one I would be saying to sit this week, just because of the fact who his quarterback is now. Backup without Deshaun Watson in there, Amari Cooper is not Amari Cooper. He doesn't get seen the ball or doesn't get thrown the ball as much. Elijah Moore, on the other hand, if he's in the waiver, watch out for him because
yeah,
he's the main target when these backups come in. But no, I mean, I believe I saw a stat the other day where it's like all these backup quarterbacks for the Browns, their completage percentage is around 40% during games. 40% completage percentage. Not that good. 8 interceptions, and I think 1 solo touchdown. 1. So I don't think he's going to get a lot of looks. I mean, he'll get a few targets here and there and might have one breakout catch. But other than that, I don't see Amari Cooper doing too much this week. And unfortunately, I don't see him doing too much the rest of the year if Deshaun Watson is out. I just don't. It's sad to say because I like Amari Cooper, but without his star quarterback in the game, unless they pick someone up like RG3, he's not gonna get seen the ball as much as he's used to. And plus, being the number one running offense in the league, that puts a damper on it as well. So this is a bad matchup, I think, for Amari Cooper going on from here on out. Actually,
yeah, I do agree with that. That
sad to say.
moves us right into our injury report, which is titled "The Doc Will See You Now." I'm the Doc, and I will see you now. This is when we talk about just injured players, people to be aware of from a fantasy value standpoint. You guys, we already talked about Joe Burrow being out with that wrist that happened this week on Thursday. As I'm sure you've seen Deshaun Watson out rest of the season. So that does affect the Cleveland Browns wide receivers. It affects their entire offense, actually.
Mm.
So that's a lot to look into, especially to see how they do this week. It's actually interesting. Deuce Vaughn for the Cowboys is said to be out this week, and Trey Lance is out actually. So if Dak does go down,
Uh-oh.
it goes
Coop.
to Coop, baby, the best backup quarterback to ever live. Leighton Vander Esch out for the season. I'm sure some people saw that. He has a neck problem, which is funny because he's known for the cowboy collar.
He might be at the end of his career, possibly. I heard that
Yeah,
it might be career ended.
it's coming close. It's been about, was he been in the league like 10-ish years
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Since we were in high school, ish.
Mm-hmm.
So moving down the list here, who else did I mark? Lions are pretty good to go, except for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Their safety still on injured reserve. The Packers, Jair Alexander still out. Pretty low there. Noah Brown out for the Texans.
Yeah, I saw
Knee inactive for Sunday's game. Big loss, especially for people that picked him up off waiver wires.
Yep.
Also, Dameon Pierce out. So big for Devin Singletary owners. Devin Singletary will have a huge game because there's no one to back him up necessarily. No one else of note on the Texans. Trying to dive a little bit deeper into them because I know they're a high-powered offense and fun to watch. The Colts, Ryan Kelly, questionable on concussion protocol. Pretty much everything there. Let's see, moving down. We have nobody of note from the Raiders necessarily. Chargers, Gerald Everett, tight end, obviously still out. Isaiah Spiller, running back, out. So he's just got an illness going on. So that running back is not as deep there. Look into that. Mike Williams on IR, Joshua Palmer on IR. So big games ahead for Keenan Allen. He is the only receiver with talent there currently.
Facts.
So look for another 40 fantasy point game weekly from him because it's just going to continue. Los Angeles Rams, Kyron Williams still out. Stenson Bennett dealing with whatever the hell Stenson Bennett's doing. I imagine it's drugs, but who knows? Dolphins, Braxton Berrios out. Jeff Wilson Jr. still out. Who cares? Chase Claypool out. I would like to see him going again. I know a lot of Chase Claypool haters, but I would like to see him. Actually, I heard that they were going to train him to be a tight end, which I found.
I saw that too. Yeah.
I would like to see that, especially with the Dolphins offense. Other than that, they're pretty healthy. Dolphins are healthy, so I'd like to see that game today. Madison is questionable on concussion protocol, so if he comes back, that'll hurt some fantasy value for Ty Chandler. Justin Jefferson is officially out this week, so hopes were for him to come back. Not going to happen this week. Mac Jones, questionable for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Quote, "We have a lot of things to work on this week as a team. We'll work through those." That's what Belichick said. So who knows if he's questionable for undisclosed reasons or if he's actually got an illness going on. I don't think he's going to be the starting quarterback for very long. Duty. New Orleans Saints, Marshawn Lattimore, high ankle sprain, questionable. Big loss for them. Giants, who cares? They're going to lose anyway. They have a ton of people out and on the IR. They're just hurting everywhere.
Yeah.
Graham Gano, if he's your kicker, check your fantasy team because he's been hurt. So.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers, hope he comes back soon. Looking forward to it. Garrett Wilson's questionable. On track to play, but is still questionable. Look to that if you have him on your team. Eagles, pretty healthy. Goddard still hurt. Goodell. Steelers, decently healthy. And that looks like Tyler Lockett, questionable for the Seahawks. Hamstring remains questionable there, so look for that game time decision. And that's about it for the injury report.
All right, so like you guys, if you guys normally stay tuned with us, at the end of these live shows that we do normally it's a Friday show. Unfortunately, we got caught up in that last 2 days. So we're doing this right now. But normally we pick the teams on who we think are going to win, and we come back Tuesday and see kind of who won that challenge last week. It was Newport.
What is the score, you said?
1-0.
It's 2-0.
No, we just started last week, bro. I don't know what we're talking about.
So 2-0. Doc to D Haynes. So if it gets to 3, I mean, maybe I think we change the podcast name to Doc and D Haynes.
Hey, yo.
Mix it around. So.
Hey. all right. We'll get
We're gonna
into
have a
it
lot of
here.
similar picks this week, so
I think so too. We'll get into it here. Our first game, starting here at 1 o'clock here in less than a half an hour, I believe. Yep. Bears and the Lions. I am going with the Lions. I'm just gonna say that right away. It
absolutely, I'll
should
take
be.
the Lions.
I think
I'm
this
gonna
one
take the
should be
Lions
a.
most weeks.
Yeah, I think this one should be a quick pick 'em this week, guys. I'm just put notes here to make sure we know who we got. All right, Giants and Commanders.
You can go ahead and give me the Commanders.
Yep, same. Titans and Jags.
Give me the Jaguars. They're on their playoff run here. They're going to get some things moving. Trevor Lawrence had a bad game last week. That will bounce back.
Yep. Chargers and Packers.
Go ahead.
I say Chargers.
Give me Chargers. 100%.
I think they're finally gonna win a game that's not too that's not too close.
The Chargers are one of the saddest teams in the NFL.
I know they're so good, but they always have. They can never win.
Now I think that game will be closer than people think. Do you think the Packers have a chance of winning it? I just want to say that.
I do too.
Because they have so much wide receivers out, the Chargers.
Yeah.
But if Keenan Allen gets going, he's gonna get 200 yards. Like it's just
Yeah.
how it
And
goes.
don't forget about Eckler either, man.
Yeah.
Tell ya.
I mean, if he gets hurt, they have nothing though.
Yeah,
They have
that's true.
absolutely nothing. So
All right, I'm curious on who you're saying on this one. Cardinals and Texans.
give me Texans. I'm riding it. I'm riding it. I love it. I want them to win. I want C.J. Stroud to go big again. Arizona defense, I don't think is going to handle his historic numbers well. So
Yeah. And I was going to say the Texans, but I want to make it interesting.
you can't say that. So all I heard was I want the Cardinals to win. That's what you said, right?
I'm going Cardinals.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so
They're
you
gonna
don't have to
win
say any of that other stuff.
No.
Good.
I'm
I hope
saying it.
you're what 2-7 Cardinals, or what was it? I hope
Hey,
they win. That's
it's gonna
great.
it's gonna be their second win in a row. Okay.
Gosh, I hope so. That's just great. Not gonna happen, but
Yeah. Raiders and Dolphins.
Dolphins,
Easy one.
without a doubt. And the next one's the easiest pick in the entire week.
Yeah. Cowboys.
Give me the Carolina, no, Dallas
yo.
Cowboys. Give me the Dallas Cowboys, baby.
They better run all over them. If that game is close, there's gonna be something wrong.
I think it will be closer than you think, just because they play down sometimes.
Yeah.
But I hope CeeDee Lamb gets another 200-yard game.
Yeah. Steelers or the Browns?
Big game.
I do too. I think this will be close.
Big game.
6-3 and 6-3, right? Yeah. I'm going Browns.
I will say this depends on how the quarterback plays for the Browns.
Correct. I think the running game's just gonna beat them.
I got to go Cleveland Browns. I think
Yeah.
the Steelers' luck runs out. They're playing on luck the entire year.
I agree. Buccaneers or 49ers?
Give me 49ers.
Yep, same. Easy one.
I will say it again, 49ers are the best team in the league. Ravens
Yep.
are number 2.
Yep.
49ers are the best. And they came back and proved that last week.
I'd agree with that. And then you got Chiefs at number 3, Eagles at 4. Cowboys at 4, Eagles at 5.
Yeah, I'll take Cowboys at 3.
Jets and Bills. I'm going Bills.
I'll take the New Jersey.
You're going Jets?
I'll take the Jets.
Okay.
I'll take the Jets. I want the Jets to win. I'm sick of the Bills shit. I'm sick of watching them play. I hate watching them play. Like, they're one of my least favorite teams to watch play now.
Yeah.
It's not cute anymore.
Seahawks or the Rams? Go Seahawks.
Is Stafford back?
Yeah. He is back. I know that for a fact. I'm still going Seahawks.
I'll come back to that one.
Vikings, Broncos.
Give me Vikings.
I'm going to go Broncos.
You're picking the Denver Broncos?
Yep. Eagles and Chiefs, Monday Night Football.
I want to hear yours.
Going Chiefs.
I'll take Eagles. I think this will showcase the fact the Chiefs can't win close games.
To be honest with you, I kind of hope you're right, but I want to see the Chiefs actually not be in the Super Bowl this year.
I think I'll take the Seahawks versus the Rams as well.
Okay, so did I. All right, so yeah, I mean, we have all similar ones. The only ones that we have different are Texas and the Cardinals, Vikings, Broncos, and Eagles, Chiefs. So we'll find out with those games and kind of see. I know, kind of see who
Can't
who
tie.
wins those. No, we can't tie. Yeah,
Can't tie.
someone has to win it this week, guys.
Yeah, I will. I have to win, so that's okay.
All right, yeah. Whatever. I mean, other than that, that will be our show for this week, guys. Sorry for the delay on a couple days. I know the games are getting ready to go up right now, but I'm still be putting this on YouTube. If you guys have any questions about maybe who to pick up next week for waiver wires with our show coming up on Tuesday, leave the comments below. We'll gladly look into it and then, answer those questions on Tuesday's podcast. And other than that, we will see you Tuesday. And let's have some fun, exciting games today, guys. Hope you guys do well in your fantasy leagues. Other than that, deuces, y'all.
Deuces.